AutoCAD Inventor Chapter 5. Let's go over what today's objectives are. We will create parametric relations, use dimensional variables, display, add, and delete geometric constraints, understand and apply different geometric constraints, display and modify parametric relations, and to create fully constrained sketches. So we're going to start with a new part. Which I think everyone knows how to do that. So today we're talking about constraints and relations and how we use them. And I'm going to create a simple triangle plate to show you guys how to do that. So the first thing we're going to do, go over here and start a new sketch, which I did. I'll close it and do it again so you can see it. New part, or you can go new. And this one is going to be in inches. So I'm going to change it to English and to inches and say create. And now we have a new part in inches. So for this one, we're going to start a 2D sketch. And we're going to do it, pardon me, on the XY plane. So start a 2D sketch. There's the YZ, there's the XY plane. So we're going to start it right there. So now we have a sketch on the XY plane, and I am going to start a little triangle here. Just something like that. So if we want to display the existing constraints, which is the first thing I want to do to see what I drew, which by the way, you can already see one right there. That's an existing constraint. You go up here to this button, which says show constraints. Okay. And then you pick which line you want the constraints on. Now you notice the only line that has a constraint on it right now is this horizontal line. None of the other ones do. So you see the horizontal constraint. And like I said, there's not any on any of the other ones. So when you're done, you can right click, or excuse me, when you're done, you get out of that command, then you can right click and you can say hide all constraints. So now we don't see any of them anymore. So you can show constraints up here, and then when you're done, you can either hide all constraints or you can also show all constraints that way. Shows you where you start. Right there is your starting point, and that you've got a horizontal constraint there. So I'm going to go back to hiding all constraints. Okay, now let's actually look at what all the constraints are. There are a big list of constraints. I'm going to move this over here where you can see it. All right, let's zoom in a little bit. All right, you've got your coincident, you've got your collinear, you've got your concentric, your fix, your parallel, your perpendicular, vertical, horizontal, tangent, smooth, symmetric, and equal. And in your book, it has a description of each one of these. So those are all the constraints that we'll be talking about while we're doing this right here. Move that back out of the way. All right, so another thing it tells us, if you look down here in the corner, is how many dimensions we need to fully constrain the sketch. So right now it's saying we need 3 dimensions and we have 1. So it says we need these 3 dimensions. We need 3 dimensions. We have 1 dimension. So the sketch is not fully constrained. So we're going to take this line and I'm going to change the measurement of it to 2.395 according to the book. That messed that up really bad, but that's okay because we're just building it now. So what we're going to do is we're going to take, I'm not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to take this right here called the fix, and we're going to lock this point right there. And see, that's going to mess up because I already have my distance labeled. So I need to delete that distance, fix. All right, now that is locked. It cannot move. That corner is stuck right there no matter what you do. So they can be used to control lots of different stuff, direction, how the thing looks, all that kind of stuff. So say you want to make this go, I don't want to constrain it like that. Sorry about that, guys. Click this. So you want this to go straight up and down. Then you would go to the vertical constraint, choose that line, and now that line is constrained straight up and down. And again, if you want to see what you've done so far, click show all constraints, and now it shows you all the constraints we have set so far on this. So now our triangle looks like that. Now if I change this dimension to 2.395, It tells me it'll over dimension the sketch. So we're not going to do that right now. So once you have these things in place, it goes with your constraints over anything else that you try to do over your dimensions, over all that kind of stuff. So let's hide all constraints. Okay. Now we're going to add an angle in here. It wants us to add an angle, which you can just add and then change later to 36.11 is what they have. But they want it to be, we'll change it to 45 now. And then if you notice, it now says fully constrained down here in the corner. So your sketch is now fully constrained. If you try to do something else to it, like if I try to do a horizontal constraint on this one, it's going to tell me I can't do that because it over constrains the sketch. All right. So that is sort of an example of if you try to over constrain, and sometimes it'll let you over constrain it, but you don't want to over constrain it. All right, because dimensional constraints are used to describe the size and location of individual geometric shapes. Geometric constraints and restrictions that can be applied to all the geometric entities, which this is what this is. It's all geometry. All right, there is also an auto dimension command if you want to use it. It will be this right here. So you apply it to everything, and you got to pick what to apply it to. So you can auto dimension all three of these lines if you want and say apply. And now it did everything it needed to because it's already fully constrained. So we'd have to take some of these constraints away. And now it says one dimension needed. So if I go to auto and click everything, I don't know which dimension I need, say, and I say apply. All right, and then it shows me you didn't have that dimension. We didn't know what that angle was. Now we do. Now this is fully dimensioned. If this wasn't a 90-degree angle, then you would have to dimension that as well. All right. So now our sketch is up. It's not fully constrained, sorry. Now our sketch is fully constrained. So we're going to draw a circle. We're going to take a circle. We're going to put it right here. We're just going to pop it in there. So it's just an arbitrary size, arbitrary location, because we're going to use dimensions and constraints to put it where we want it to go. So now you notice it is all of a sudden not fully constrained anymore because I've added something to the sketch. It says 3-dimension required when I pick that. And there you go. It has added those 3 dimensions if I hit that. So if we want to do something like, say, make this tangent to that, we'll click tangent, this, and then click that line. And now you notice it is connected to that line right there, tangent to it. Now, if I want to change the size of it, or if I want to slide it up and down, I can slide it up and down. And if I try to move it down, all it does is change the size of it. So I can slide it up and down this line. But if I try to go this way, it does not move it. It just keeps it tangent to that line because we've already set that constraint. That constraint is going to override every other constraint. Same thing if we want to remove constraints. Let's see, let's remove this tangent constraint. Okay, and say I want this to be the middle of that. So I would take this and I would put a horizontal constraint on this to this. Up says that already constraint already exists. Okay. But you can move it around to different areas on your own. Then you can delete all these like I did because this is just used for an example. So now we need to put this where it actually needs to go. So where it actually needs to go is, I'll do 0.35 from there and 0.35 from there. So that's where our circle is actually going to go. And we already know that our circle is, they want it to be 0.75. but I made my drawing smaller, so we'll go with 0.35. And there we go. Now look down here. We are once again fully constrained. And then we will finish our sketch. We'll extrude this guy, maybe 0.1 inches. It's not a very thick thing. And then there you go. So that is a fully constrained sketch turned into a little model there, a little 3D model of a triangle piece. Okay. So that's how that right there works. That is how you constrain. That is how those relationships work. If you have any questions, you can talk to me or a farmer in class. You'll have a great day.